Morning, everyone, on this beautiful rainy day that the Chamber doesn't claim as Chamber of Commerce Day. My name's Ashley Christian. I'm the Director of Investor Development with the Knoxville Chamber, and I just want to say thank you for joining us this morning. We are eager to celebrate the last day of Women's History Month by talking with 3 thriving Knoxville business owners to talk about their experiences as women in business. I would like to take a moment and recognize our sponsors who have made this event possible this morning. Iris Networks, Shod Companies, Comcast Business, Hyperion Networks, Phillips Jones Wealth Management, and TVA's Employees Credit Union. Thank you all so much. We appreciate your support and continued investment in the Knoxville Chamber's mission and in our community. Now let's move on to the reason that we're here today, our 3 panelists. I'm really excited to introduce you all to Nancy Barger, the owner at the Pavilion at Hunter Valley Farm, Mahasti Vafaie, the owner of Tomato Head, and Katy Richardson, who is the founder of Neighborhood Barre. Let's give them all a round of applause. Thank you all so much for being here with us today to share a little of your story and participate in our panel discussion. First of all, let's just get started by hearing a little bit about yourselves and your business. Nancy, if you'll kick us off.
Hey y'all, thanks for joining today. We greatly appreciate it. I'm the founder and owner of the Pavilion at Hunter Valley Farm, which is an event venue located off of North Shore Drive. I also own Barger Concepts, which entails Swank Floral, Tallulah's Boutique, and Shotgun Creative, which is kind of a newer line for us. So our store and my office are technically in Rocky Hill, but we're expanding this week. We're super, super excited about that. So the office is a little trashed right now, and so I'm at home today. But thank you so much for having us. I've got a great husband, 4 wonderful kids, and 2 obnoxious dogs that are in the background. So if they bark or scratch the door or do anything, I sincerely apologize.
That's awesome. Thank you, Nancy. Mahasti?
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. It's a pleasure to be with all of you on this beautiful rainy day. I am the founder and owner of the Tomato Head, and we've been, I started the business in 1990, so we've been around a really long time. Yeah, so.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Mahasti. Katy?
Hey guys, I am super honored to be here with you guys this morning. My name is Katy Richardson. I founded Neighborhood Barre, which is a fitness franchise, in 2011. The first studio was in Knoxville at the North Shore Town Center. And then I started franchising the concept in 2015. And we just signed our 18th location. So we have them mainly throughout the Southeast. I'm still heavily involved in the operations of the 2 Knoxville studios. So it's a lot to do.
Well, I am so honored to be here with such incredible women this morning who have such impressive accomplishments. We are so fortunate that you all choose to operate in Knoxville. So let's hear a little bit more about how you made the decision to become a business owner here. The first question I'd like to ask, and we'll start with Mahasti, is how and why did you become an entrepreneur? Was it something you always intended for yourself? So Mahasti, if you'll kick it off for us.
Thank you. Consciously, no, I had not planned on being an entrepreneur. I went to school to become an engineer, and so I have a degree in biomedical engineering from UT. And that was my dream all along. That's what I was going to do with my life. But, you know, growing up, I was always thinking of ideas of, you know, ways to make a little extra money, you know, like I had a really good friend in high school, and we would talk about opening a restaurant together or a cleaning service together, or, you know, just different things. But I never actually thought that I would do that. And I mean, I always thought I would just be an engineer. And so after, and I actually started working in restaurants in high school to be able to pay for college. And once I entered college, I continued to work to pay my bills and tuition and all of that. So I'd been in the restaurant business for quite some time. And so after graduating from UT, I got my first engineering job, did that for about 9 months and did not enjoy it. So moved back to Knoxville, still not planning to open a restaurant or work, entrepreneurial. Went back to UT, thinking that I would go to medical school. So took a bunch of pre-med courses and did that. And then at some point, I was on a trip with my mom in New Orleans, and I just decided I was going to come back to Knoxville and open a restaurant. So I did. I was unemployed, of course. I'd quit my engineering job and having some kind of midlife crisis because I felt like, oh, I have a degree and I'm just waiting tables. And anyway, so I think it just all came to a head while I was on that trip. And so I came back to Knoxville and 3 months later opened Tomato Head.
Wow, that is pretty incredible. Katy, same question to you.
So my story is a little bit different, I guess. But I also have a corporate background. So my major was in finance, and then I got a secondary degree in accounting. I kind of did always know I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I didn't know what avenue I wanted to take. And I chose to go into boutique fitness because this was in 2011 when I made the decision to do it. I'd been thinking about it for about a year, and I saw the direction that the industry was going. And with my background in cheerleading as my main background in fitness, that and outdoor sports, which are like kind of two opposites, but that's very much how my life is. So I did like rock climbing and cheerleading, and I got hurt cheering and couldn't do any traditional workouts anymore. So it's kind of exposed to boutique fitness because of an injury. And as I was working as a internal auditor for Vulcan Materials Company, I just really knew that I didn't, that wasn't my path. And it was a great background to have. And I was very grateful for the job. It was a great job. It also exposed me to Knoxville because one of their division offices is in Knoxville. So that's how I ended up here. But I just had this like existential push to do it. And I felt like I was young enough at the time, I was 27, that if I tried and it didn't work out, I still had my accounting background that I could fall back on. I could always go back and retake and finish the CPA exam. And, I had a good kind of safety net. But then I made myself move away, so I didn't really have the option to fail, and just kind of push forward from there.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. Nancy, how about you?
Both of my parents were entrepreneurs. My grandfather was an entrepreneur, and I was always very, very creative, but I couldn't figure out how to channel that because I can't even draw a stick figure. So drawing was definitely off the table, but I was good with colors, and I would decorate all my friends' houses in college. And my mom owned our horse farm. So I grew up showing horses competitively, and my dad was a corporate pilot, and we owned a charter service growing up. And so I grew up around horses and airplanes. It's all I ever knew. And so while I was in college, I was also a flight attendant in Atlanta, and I would just commute to Auburn. And I quickly realized that I didn't enjoy being employed, which I know probably sounds funny. I don't do well with stringent schedules. So I thought, I always want to do my horses, but I have to be able to pay for them because horses are expensive. So I thought, well, I'll go down the path of my dad because I love airplanes. And so my degree from Auburn is in aviation management, and I was a corporate pilot for 10 years. And then the recession hit in 2007, and our boss sold his airplane, and my mom and I couldn't give horses away. In fact, we donated 10 to a university in Kentucky's equestrian team just to get them off of our kind of payroll. And then after that, we just figured, people are always going to have excluding 2020, people are always going to have prom, corporations are always going to have parties, daddy's little girl is always going to have her wedding. And so that's when we built an event center on our family farm. And then it just kind of sprouted from there. And then our other companies have all kind of kicked off from the pavilion. So when you have an event venue, you sell a date, not a party. So when I sell that date's gone. So I needed to find a new income stream. And so that's where our floral shop came in, because if I was doing an event at Hunter Valley and then I could also do the flowers of Hunter Valley and then still do 5 other, events or weddings on a weekend with our floral shop, then my income stream practically doubled. And then our clothing store was strictly because somebody told me I couldn't. My aunts and my mom were like, don't ever open a brick and mortar. And so I was like, okay. So I bought an Airstream at a bail bonds place for $5,000 and had one of Knoxville's first Airstream boutiques, which we quickly outgrew. And then my husband and I also started in the middle of that Barger's beer truck, which was kind of like a food truck, but it was like a mobile bar. And we got up to a fleet of 5, and we sold that company almost 3 years ago. So everything in our world started around events, and then it just kind of blossomed from there.
Wow, I absolutely love your stories and your honesty and how unique your paths were. Thank you so much for sharing that part with us. What barriers to entry did you face as a female business owner, and how did you overcome them? And Katy, we'll start with you on this one.
Okay. I think because of my industry, I didn't really see the barriers that some female business owners might experience, because boutique fitness is heavily, skewed towards women. I was really fortunate that I had a landlord that wanted to give me a chance. And my original landlord at the North Shore Town Center had multiple offers for this space. And one of those offers was from a local person who was very well established in the community and wanted my space for the same type of concept. And he chose me. And when I asked him, why did you pick me? He said, because when I was your age, somebody gave me a chance, and I want to be the person that pays that forward and gives you that chance. So I would say that, being young and being a woman actually kind of worked in my favor a little bit. Just the cards fell into place. And again, like owning a business that is heavily, marketed towards women, the community was amazing. And I was embraced literally from day one. I told myself when I moved here, I didn't know anybody in Knoxville. And I said, I'm just going to focus on my business, and I'll worry about making friends in my social life later, because I was like very social, tons of friends in Birmingham. It was actually very out of character for me to move away. And I actually made friends first, because of people reaching out and embracing me. So it was kind of unexpected, and it was a great experience on the front end. Getting into franchising and things like that, I didn't, again, have that many barriers to entry, because there are not very many brands in the bar industry, not very many big ones. So I had to make the decision to keep reinvesting into myself so that I could be kind of on the front end of the industry instead of trying to get in late. So I just totally invested in myself. I didn't reach out for outside investors or anything like that. And just every time I had cash, I either opened another studio or put it into the franchising operation, and didn't really have to deal with as many outside people as somebody, an entrepreneur in another industry, might have to.
That's wonderful. Welcome to Knoxville.
Yeah.
Such a great place to do business. Nancy, how about you?
I'm kind of like with Katy. My industry of events and flowers and women's clothing hasn't had too many hurdles, but I will speak to when I was a pilot. That is totally a man's world, and I had to fight for every position that I ever got flying. And all, because mostly the people that I flew with were older, and they were not used to women in the cockpit. In fact, I had a boss that didn't like female pilots, and so he never knew when I flew him because I would already be in the cockpit with the door shut. And so I just still don't know how I got that job. I think my dad helped me with that one. So, that really taught me how to stand up for myself, but in a, kind of a polite and business-like way. And so I'm a little bit bullheaded as well. So when I started my companies here in Knoxville, I was like ready, but then nobody fought us. So I was just kind of pleasantly surprised.
Very cool. Very cool. Mahasti, how about you?
It's exactly similar experience as Katy and Nancy. I had more opposition and problems as an engineer than I ever have as a female entrepreneur. When I first decided to open, a few people said, go to the SCORE office and talk to people before you open. Restaurants fail all the time, don't do it. And that was pretty much what the SCORE people told me. The Small Business Administration has a volunteer service. I don't know if they're still around, but they were like, no, don't open, definitely don't open downtown, bad idea. But other than that, I haven't had any issues with being a female or not having opportunities. And similar to Katy, I was lucky enough to find a landlord that really believed in me, and he gave me really, really cheap rent. And I struggled early on, and he would let me pay half and then pay the other half in 2 weeks. And so I feel the same way. I feel like I was given opportunities because I was a female. But yeah.
Well, that's really wonderful to hear. And you all really have given, I think, some hope to female entrepreneurs out there. And that really leads into question 3, which is, what 3 tools, so apps, books, podcasts, etc., would you all recommend to anyone trying to start her own business? Nancy, I'll start with you.
So, truth be told, I hate to read and I don't listen to podcasts. So, I'll just say that. But from my experience, I kind of talked to my competitors, which I know might sound kind of weird, but in our industry, our Knoxville wedding community is so tight knit. We have all helped each other through when our business flooded, through COVID, through getting to the State Department to help get funding. So having that tight knit group around you that you can rely on and learn from, I think is a huge asset, which I know sounds odd because you're like, why would those people talk to me? But really, if you go in there and just say, hey, I've got a mind that's ready to listen, then I think that, if the other party is willing, go for it. I mentor other venues all the time. Yes, they're competitors, but we all offer something different. And I think it's a valuable lesson to learn to have those contacts. And then I would also say the Knoxville Entrepreneur Center, that wasn't a tool when I opened my company, but we work with them very closely now. And I think that that's a huge thing, that you can go down there and you can kind of learn about things and talk to people and sign up for mentors. And I just think that that's huge. Our Knoxville community is, it's huge, but it's very small. There's only 2 degrees of separation here. And I would just say to take advantage of all that's offered here and talk to those other people.
Wonderful. Thank you. Mahasti, how about you?
I would say read and listen to as much as you can get your hands on. I can't say that there was one particular book or one particular podcast that has, really helped me out. But very early on, I just started reading anything and everything, and I still to this day do. So I get little nuggets of information from, just a magazine article or, listening to a podcast or anything like that. And so, so I'm a little bit different from Nancy, but yeah, I spend a lot of time reading.
Okay. Katie, how about you?
I'm really glad Nancy said she doesn't read because I always feel judged for that, but I don't read either. I never have. Like, even as a child, my mom said she would try to like read me a book and I would just like get out of her lap and be like, this is over, like not happening. I discovered Cliff's Notes very early on, by the way. I feel like I was like a pioneer of those at my school. But I do love podcasts. I will listen to an ebook. It's an attention span issue that I can't actually read words. So, but I have some favorite podcasts. I feel like the problem with podcasts is sifting through, finding somebody that's actually credible and sifting through like the fluff of people who just want to like be a business coach, but they don't really have a lot of business experience. So one person, and that I don't think they have to be in your industry either, depending on what you do. So my favorite podcast for business is anything by Michael Hyatt, and I actually love his daughter. He does one called Lead to Win, and it's Michael Hyatt and Megan, who is his daughter. And I think that podcast is really great for anybody, no matter what your industry is. And keep in mind, too, a lot of the business podcasts, you can just kind of like flip through. Not all of the episodes are going to be relevant to you. But one thing that is relevant to every entrepreneur, too, is anything to help with your marketing. Marketing is something that is very much overlooked for a small business, but nobody's going to buy your services or buy your, whatever you sell if they don't know it exists. So getting the word out that you're even a thing, educating the market on what you are. I had to do a lot of educating the market because I was the first bar studio to open in Knoxville. Then we go into other markets where we are one of many and we have to learn how to break through the noise. So finding a marketing podcast that actually has real valuable information is a little bit of a struggle because everybody thinks they're a marketing genius. So sometimes you might want to sift through and find something that is a little more industry specific. But there is, what is her name? Amy Porterfield. She's a really good marketer. She actually trained Jenna Kutcher, who that's another great podcast, depending on, the size of your business. But you have to also go after resources depending on where you are in the life cycle. So if you're looking at starting a business, Michael Hyatt, Amy Porterfield, those are going to be great places to start. But you might have to shift the resources as you grow. I've had to do that over the past 10 years, is really shift where I go for advice. And I 100% back up what Nancy said about finding people to talk to that can help you. And again, they don't necessarily have to be in your industry. And my industry is very like competitive. So I can't necessarily go to a competitor and get advice, even though I would give somebody advice, and I do that all the time. So just finding somebody that's in the same life cycle that you're in, meaning the life cycle of your business, whether you're just getting started, whether you're trying to grow it to the next level, finding somebody that's been there before is so valuable. And that is the one thing I wish I had done sooner, is sought out help, like professional business coaching. I wish I had done that much earlier on, because it would have saved me a lot of time, and it would have saved me like a lot of money from some things that I got tangled up in early on.
Wow, thank you so much.
Sorry, Ashley, I didn't mean to
No.
interrupt you. I was thinking as Mahasti and Katy were talking, but I'm notorious for starting companies because it's what I do and it's fun. But I have a team of people around me that all have to say yes to an idea before we can even take it to a business development idea. And it's my sales manager at my office because she's going to have to run it. It's my bookkeeper because she's going to have to figure out how to fund it. It's my business coach, which is amazing, y'all. You need to get a business coach. They're awesome, or business mentor, because he makes me actually think through the, all the concepts and the business plan and the how long it's going to be and how much money it's going to cost. And then my dad, because more than likely he's going to have to build it. My husband, because he's going to have to put up with it. And then one friend that has nothing to do with it, because as an outsider, they can come, they give that opinion of, hey, I don't think Knoxville needs this, or hey, I think this is a great idea. And so I think that surrounding yourself with a support team like that is extremely valuable when you're starting a company.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your answers. These days, there are so many business women out there who essentially are doing it all. And I know that they would love to hear from you all. How do you manage your work-life balance? And so we'll start off with Mahasti on this one.
Well, like Katy, I started out very young as well, and my industry is notoriously all-consuming, and I worked, 17-hour days frequently every day, and so in the beginning, I really didn't know how I would have a family, if ever. I didn't really want one at the time, but it didn't seem like it would be possible at all ever. But then I just decided that I was ready when I was in my 30s. And so then you just have to kind of figure it out. And I think, like Nancy, you have to surround yourself with people who can help. Having a great team obviously helps you not have to be there all the time. And so it, and then everybody's different too. So, I have female friends who work a lot and don't see their kids as much, but that's the way they want to do it. And for me, it's different. I'm very much a homebody and I like being around my kids. And so after I started having kids, I just started working less. But I do go, as they've gotten older, I'm working a lot more and I do go in spurts and fits. So about a month ago, I worked 60-hour, 70-hour weeks. And then this week I'm not working as much. So it just, kind of ebbs and flows and you just have to deal with it.
Katy, how about you? How do you manage your work-life balance?
I'm kind of like Mahasi. I mean, I didn't used to manage it very well at all. I worked way too much, and you have to also take a look at the amount of hours you're spending in your business versus working on your business versus how much can you really execute fully when you put too much on your plate. So I think that that's something that is pretty unique to the individual, as far as like your energy management, as far as how much you can take and how much you can't, because everybody's different. I mean, some people really need to, preserve their energy in order to give everything 100%. I'm somebody who feels like I don't have any concept of how many hours there are in a day. And I have this to-do list, 73 things long. And I'm like, oh, I can get all that done on Wednesday. No big deal. And like 2 weeks later, I still haven't gotten through it. So you have to learn like how long things take to really, not just to do, but to do it well and to fully execute it. And then with my business too, there's multiple components of, are you teaching the classes, or are you working on the back end operational side, or how have you followed up on like sales? So there's like three main components. Where I see a lot of people make mistakes in fitness is they're a really great instructor and they just want to teach all the classes because that's fulfilling to them, and then the operations and the sales start to really lag on the back end of it. And once you get yourself in a hole, it's really hard to catch up. So it can be tough to balance it. I too have just built a team around me and learned that I don't have to do it all. Even if I feel like if there's something I like doing, I like leading classes, but I physically can't lead more than 5 to 7 a week. I don't have enough time. Not if I'm going to get anything else done. So building a team around you so that you can work on your business to grow your business versus just working so deep in the business is very important. And it also helps to motivate you when you see your business growing, and it pays for the team that you've built. I mean, that's the whole point of it, is to be able to build a team that can help you grow your business by doing some of the things that you either aren't great at or that you don't like to do. So I tell everybody to make a list of what you like to do, what you have to do, and what you don't like to do and could give away. And then you can kind of manage your time based on that list and find people who thrive in the areas that you don't thrive in. I don't thrive in the details. So I have somebody that's multiple people that are very detail oriented that work for me and can kind of read my mind when I have this great idea and not only fill in the gaps of the details that I just like think are gonna, fall into place themselves, but also they can make sure that I'm executing it in a timely fashion and not just all talk, no action type of business strategy planning.
Thank you, Katie. Nancy, how about you?
So I actually had young kids when I started, and I can remember my oldest having strep throat, and I had a wedding, and so I put a blow-up mattress in my office at the farm and put on Disney and would check on her every 10 minutes in the back. And I think, when you're starting out, you just kind of have to figure it out. You keep your head an inch above water at all times, and then it just kind of all starts to fall into place. So I agree with Katie that a team, like I don't thrive in detail either. I do when it comes to floral design or event design, but I hate social media. I'm not good at the Planoly and the apps, and I don't like paperwork, which I know sounds terrible. But so I find people that are really good at that, and then I can still be the creative and the entrepreneur. And, I take care of my employees because they take care of me. And so my two sales managers have been with me for 5 and 6 years, almost 6 and 7. And so being able to just leave them with a list of things to do is great. My business coach told me several years ago that if you can delegate it and somebody can do it 70% as good as you can, then you should delegate it. And that was a very, very difficult lesson to learn. Even coming down to like vacuuming, I was like, well, they don't vacuum as good as I do. And he was like, it's vacuuming in a spot that nobody even saw. And so I think that finding those people to surround yourself, and then I have a different schedule than my employees because I do have kids. So my kids go to school from 7:30 to 2:45. So that's the time that I typically work. And there's my husband in the background. He's on spring break. And so I work from about 7:30 to 2:30 at my office, or at my store or at the farm doing whatever I need to do. And then I'm off when my kids are off. And we took the office out of our house. And that is a work-life balance for us, because if I have an opportunity to work from home, I'll do it. And I recognized that a couple of years ago and just decided that that's not how I wanted to be. I want to be present. I want to cook dinner for my kids. And I do have that support team now at the office that can answer those questions for our clients.
Wow, that's really incredible to hear about that. You all have thriving, successful businesses, but I know that over the years that has not come without challenge. So what I'd like to know is, what obstacles have you faced in growing or expanding your business, and how did you overcome them? And we'll start this one off with Katie.
So I face a lot of obstacles. I think when you're growing, one of the biggest obstacles that anybody faces is managing your time. And when I first expanded from one studio to two studios, I didn't have enough staff. And it kind of goes back to what we just talked about. Like, we all thought we could do it all, and there wasn't enough staff to really allow me to nurture two locations at the same time. And I'd also, gotten my clients very used to seeing me every single day, all the time, because I was probably teaching too many of the classes myself. So then when now all of a sudden I'm on the other side of town, I'm like abandoning these people, and I'm in a very, relationship based business. So balancing my time was a struggle when I first started to grow. And then when I started franchising, that goes back to kind of the question before. I really should have worked harder to find somebody who had franchised before, no matter what industry it is, because that is a totally different type of business. It's regulated by the Federal Trade Commission. And my very first attorney wrote me a non-compliant franchise disclosure document. So I paid almost $15,000 for a non-compliant document and never got a dime of the money back, because if I had a franchisee, I had two franchisees signed on it, and had one of them brought a legal issue against me, the only way I could have even gotten half my money back on that was for the attorney to waive his liability in writing me a non-compliant document. So it wasn't worth it to me to take on the liability of that. So I dropped it and found a wonderful attorney in Denver who wrote me a brand new franchise disclosure document. That one cost me $22,000 because it was compliant. And had I even known that franchise disclosure documents should cost between $20,000 and $40,000, depending on the complexity of your business, it would have thrown a red flag from the beginning that I was only paying I was paying under 15,000. So even just little things like that, I wish I would have known. I would have saved a lot of money. I also got courted by one of these like big franchise sales companies who, sold me on the fact that, there weren't very many people in my industry, and I had my own dedicated salesperson who was going to sell all these franchises for me. And turns out on the back end of that, my salesperson was selling, I think, 13 other concepts. And franchise sales, you're selling something that costs, our concept itself costs $35,000. He was also selling trampoline parks that cost, $50,000, $100,000. That's a big transaction. So he wasn't even able to spend any time servicing my account, and I'm paying a $3,500 a month retainer. So that's why I said if I'd asked for help sooner, I would have saved a lot of money. I didn't need somebody like that selling my franchises. I just knew somebody that knows the business and is good at sales. I didn't need, this whole company to build a box and like create an FDD. I just needed a great attorney who could advise me on what to do. So when you decide to grow and expand beyond one singular location, or like how Nancy has like a very diverse stream of revenues all around her. Like, yes, a lot of them go back into the same business, but it's not the same business, even though they complement each other. Like, you really need to know what you're getting yourself into and educate yourself on the industry and the business before you decide to expand. And you'll avoid making a lot of mistakes. And like, I wasted a lot of money when I first started franchising.
Nancy, how about you?
All of our companies luckily have organically grown. And we've just been so blessed. I am more of like a fly by the seat of my pants kind of entrepreneur. We've all joked that I'm the $5,000 entrepreneur. So I'll spend $5,000 on anything and be willing to lose it. Thank God that has not happened yet. But like our Airstream was 5,000, our first store rent was 2,500. So it was just one of those things that everything was, semi-organic. And when I thought I had everything settled, we had our Airstream, we had the beer trucks, we had the flower shop and the farm. My mom, at the age of 66 in 2016, went to Spain on vacation with my niece and had a massive heart attack. So our sales manager had only been with us for 6 months, and I literally gave her the keys to my house, the keys to the office, and my checkbook with 100 signed checks. And I said, it's your company until I return. And I was in Spain for 11 days. We flew my mom home where she passed away at Tenova Turkey Creek just 11 days after her heart attack. And so it was just like, okay, now what do I do? Because my mom owned half of our company. She owned 51%. So I quickly realized that we had a right of survivorship in our LLC documents, which I didn't even know existed. And basically what that meant is if one partner dies, the other one assumes their shares. And so I was 100% owner of our company, which was great. I didn't have to worry about that. However, our company that I now owned 100% sat on a piece of property that I only owned 33% of. And we went through 4 years of probate and court where family got involved. My mom had left some things to my niece who was a minor, and her mother came back in the picture. And they took me to court 14 times. I won 14 times, and it cost me $750,000. And that's what a lot of people, this is actually the first time I've ever admitted that. So I had to refinance my company. I won my company. They were trying to force me to sell it. So I won again after 4 years, and it's 100% mine. The ground that it sits on is 100% mine, and I can do anything that I need to do. And thank God we had an amazing banker who helped us refinance to be able to encapsulate some of that, those funds. But that's been huge. So I say from the get-go, have your documents in order. When we started our company, I was in my mid-20s with 2 babies and newly divorced, and I didn't know, my rear from a hole in the ground. And I was like, sure, I'll just sign this document. It was great. 49%. That means if something happens, my mom has to pay. That is not what that means. So make sure that you have all of your documents in order, and make sure that you know what those documents say. I can read legal documents like a pro now, and I have no law experience whatsoever. But had we not had that right of survivorship in our documents to begin with, this would be a whole different story for us.
Nancy, I'm so sorry about your mother, and thank you for sharing with us. I know that a lot of people can probably relate, particularly to legal issues that you and Katy both had faced, not knowing about certain documents or making sure that certain things needed to be handled in a certain way. Mahasti, how about you?
I think that running a business is just really challenging. There are obstacles daily, at least in my business. But that's what makes it fun for me. I enjoy having challenges that I need to solve. Nancy, I did want to say that I knew your mom, and she was just adorable and such a force. She was really an amazing woman. And oddly enough, my daughter went to school with your niece, and so they were really close friends for a little while. But your mom, she really needed to be on this panel. She was amazing. Like, she was someone to look up to. She was great.
Awesome. She was a mess.
But yeah, I mean, I think that, I've had a lot of different struggles throughout the years, and like Katy and Nancy, you learn from them, and hopefully you don't make the same mistake. But legal issues, and we had some construction issues, and when they were remodeling Market Square, they dug underneath our building and our wall collapsed, so we had to move across the street for, I don't know, like a year or so. So owning a business is just a challenge. From the daily people don't show up to work, to bigger issues like your wall collapsing or having to go to court 14 times. But that's what makes it interesting and challenging. And I always tell myself it's keeping my brain young. So I enjoy that part of it. But yeah, it's definitely not easy. So, but I also don't think that there is anything that's easy. So if you're in banking or accounting, or there are no easy jobs out there. It's just the thing that I find really fulfilling for me is that I love what I do. And so I have bad days where I think, oh, what am I doing with myself? But then I go to work and I start interacting with my employees and the customers and cooking and doing the things that I love. And I pop right out of that bad mood, and, it just makes it all worth it.
Wow, you all have overcome some tremendous obstacles, and your stories are so inspirational. And before I ask the last question, I just wanted to share with you all that in the chat, I have received, this is one of the best women's events I've ever attended. Thank you, ladies, so much for your honesty and candidness. And then another one, the passion, determination, and will to succeed that you all are sharing is so incredibly inspiring. What an excellent panel of women entrepreneurs. So I just wanted to share that with you all as it was coming in. Everything that you're saying is really resonating with other people, and this is just awesome. So we're getting to our final couple of questions for today. But before anyone attending has something they would like to ask panelists, if anybody has a question that you'd like to ask, we will definitely, after our last question, try to get to some of those. So if you want to type those in the chat. So here's the last question, and then love to hear from some of the attendees. According to a new study by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the pandemic has disproportionately impacted the health of women-owned businesses. What would be your advice for those women who, and how are you powering through the struggles of the pandemic? So Nancy, how about you first?
So in my world, failure is not an option. So coming through COVID wasn't like we just were. That was just what was going to happen. I think we had a little practice because exactly a year before COVID hit, our building flooded with 2 feet of water from the lake, and we were closed for 6 weeks. And while that was just us being closed and COVID shut the whole world down, I think we kind of knew we had practice in how to respond to clients and how to interact, you know, with people. And so my biggest issue with COVID is I had a caterer call me. I'm very close with our whole wedding community or event community. And it was when the restrictions were lightened the beginning of May, end of April, beginning of May, but Knox County kept social gatherings to a limit. So basically Knox County events were shut down still for another month when all of the surrounding counties were opened. And so all of our clients then were like, well, you can't have the event, so now we're going to go to Sevierville or Anderson County or Loudoun County, or, I mean, they were going everywhere else except for us. And we were shelling out money and deposits that we didn't have because coming out of winter for an event venue, it like there's nothing there. You scrape by just to get through the winter, and then the pandemic hits in our busiest months, and then all these people want their money back. And so that was pretty challenging. But this caterer, he said to me, and I love him dearly still, he goes, you know, we're worth more dead than alive. That hit me really hard. And the fact that I went there for the 3.5 seconds that I did, I was very disappointed in myself. I looked at my kids who were smiling at me that day, and I absolutely lost it. I went outside and I cried in my bathroom floor. I could not wrap my head around the fact that I even thought about that for a half a second. And so my best friend, thankfully, is a doctor, and I called her in the middle of the day, and she answered, and she goes, how bad is it, and what do you need? And I was like, how did you know? She goes, because you've never, ever called me at work. And so not that I'm a doctor, not that I'm a proponent of medication, but Zoloft has literally changed my life. And so it has really taken all of my anxiety away. And then it really allowed me to open up to other people. And now I found out that about 90% of my friends are, you know, are getting help too. So I think that being honest with yourself and the health of your health when you own and run a company is the health of your company. So if I'm not okay, I can't be okay for all of my employees and expect them to be okay. And I needed them to know that we were fine. They were not getting laid off. They were not getting fired. I went without a paycheck from February to September just so my employees would make sure that they knew that they were safe and we didn't lay anybody off. And so I think that taking care of yourself is the most important thing. And then the health of your companies and your employees go right along with that.
Thank you, Nancy. Katy, how about you?
So, I mean, I think all three of us were completely shut down at some point with our businesses. And I had some studios that were shut down for up to 5 months. And I was able to see, how this impacted a lot of different women with a lot of different types of personalities. And it was very interesting to see the reaction. We immediately implemented weekly support calls for the franchisees because of, I mean, exactly what Nancy said, the mental health component of it was very real and people were terrified. They've got everything on the line and they're terrified of, yeah, like losing their investment into their business, but they're also, I think, like there's a fear of failure factor that goes into it, and then an I'm out of control factor because it was out of our control. We were mandated to close our doors for a certain amount of time, and then once we opened back up, the restrictions, it was almost worse for some people when we opened back up because we had to operate our businesses again in such a limited capacity that, you know, you're having to come out of pocket for your rent, but you're only able to cater to about 30% of your clients. That I saw people all across the country, and I'm in these coaching groups with other fitness studio owners all across the country. And I mean, and people in California, arguably have had it the worst, and some people in New York that I'm in these groups with. But the benefit to that for me was because it was hitting other areas first before it, kind of came down to Knoxville, is we were able to see what other people were doing and kind of plan and adapt and evolve to be able to serve our clients. So my thing was having to motivate everybody else that owns a neighborhood bar studio to believe me, to trust me, and to come with me on this journey to not go a single day without offering a service to our clients. So for me, it was having to be a cheerleader, a therapist, a leader. They had to trust me more than they've trusted almost anybody in their whole life because the life of their business was in my hands, so to speak. And the decisions I made determined whether we were going to get through the pandemic or not. And I didn't think of it as such a huge undertaking and such a huge challenge, honestly, for my leadership abilities until we kind of got through it. And I looked back and it was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe one, that almost everybody listened to me and that we navigated this and came up with this like live streaming plan. I mean, we started live streaming classes day one, but I mean, it didn't solve like the mental struggle, especially those business owners who had children home from school. So now they're not only a business owner who's having to make it through a pandemic, they're also now a teacher. And these women, they own their own business because they, don't want to be a stay-at-home mom. Not that there's anything wrong with it. My mother was a stay-at-home mom, but and now they're kind of forced into these situations and they don't want any part of any of it. And it's all out of their control. So I can understand that it would disproportionately impact women-owned businesses because for a lot of women, they had more on their plate than ever before and had to navigate their family and their business. So energy management, anxiety management, just like Nancy was saying, is a huge thing. And I think you also have to learn how to manage your own energy and how to manage your own anxiety. And for me, it's making sure that I had to get a separate cell phone. I have a work phone, I have a personal phone. I had to get some separation from me and the business, and not necessarily my clients. My clients weren't the issue, but it was my franchisees and my clients on the franchising side of the business. I had to put some space, and I told them they needed to put some space between themselves and their business too, and so that you're not just constantly in this state of panic, because it was very scary for a long time, and we're still not completely through it. Like we've made it so far, but not, there's still going to be more fallout, more issues. There's, in some markets, the demand for, I'm sure, like most of our services have lessened. and it will come back, but you've got to be able to make smart decisions. And you've got to be able to think clearly. And when you're in a panic, you can't think clearly and you can't think rationally to do the things to make it through. So I saw a lot of panic and irrational, like wasted, like nervous anxiety energy versus just putting one foot in front of the other and saying, what can I do today? And then what can I do tomorrow? And that's as far as I'm going to think. And then once I get to tomorrow, I'm going to plan my next 2 days. So I think just biting off smaller pieces so that you can think through it was very important.
Thank you, Katy. Mahasti?
So pretty much the same. We also, the pandemic hit right when we were going into our busy season. And for restaurants, it's the same as events. The January, February are the slowest months. So you don't have a ton of cash reserves. And so that hit. And I think as far as women in business go, I think it's just because we're more emotional, just to be honest. We had to close the Market Square store because like traffic went down to 0 and there was just no point in keeping it open. And, our staff were all very nervous. Everybody was just so nervous. Nobody knew what was going on or, nobody's been through this before. So we had very few people who were, willing to come to work. And so it was really difficult to staff 2 stores. So we just closed the Market Square store. And I do remember like just going in the bathroom and closing the stall door and just bawling, I was just, an emotional wreck. But having people around me that just really cared, that's one of the things that I love about my job is that I work with some amazing, amazing people. And, just having people like that around that they were my support system. So they didn't necessarily know that I was in the bathroom crying my eyeballs out, but, we have this wonderful gentleman who's just a host, he's been working with us for 3 or 4 years. And he just came up to me one day and he said, "How are you doing?" And just, taking that time to say that just made me just start bawling all over again. And I think that is, we're different. We're wired differently as women. I think, my tendency, I know that we're not all the same, but my tendency is that I just start crying and I hate that, but it's just what I do. But I work closely, my husband works with me in the company and he was also under a lot of stress as well, but he manifests his stress differently. It's not, he doesn't break down and start crying. And I don't think that, as far as I'm concerned anyway, I know that everybody in the restaurant industry was suffering. So I don't see that it was disproportionately gender translated or whatever, like I don't feel like it hurt women in business more, at least not in the restaurant industry. I know everybody on Market Square was suffering. It didn't matter if they were female owned or not. And, it's just, you just deal with it on a daily basis. I'm also like Katy, I couldn't think about long-term because I didn't even know what long-term was, but just figuring out how to get through the day, get through today, wake up tomorrow, do the same thing, try to get through it. And then, now we're a year into it and still, we don't really know exactly what's happening, but we just, manage through a day and then the next one, and hopefully we'll get through all of this.
Well, thank you all so much. We appreciate each of you so much and the work that you do in our community. And I know that everybody was really inspired by how real and how genuine and how thoughtful your answers were. And we so appreciate you sharing. And this may be a little unconventional, but I thought it would be really cool if everybody unmuted and gave these ladies a round of applause they could actually hear this morning. Thank you so much. This has been such an incredible event. You all are so inspiring and we're so lucky to have you in our community. Thank you to our investors who tuned in this morning. We appreciate you and couldn't do the things that we do at the Chamber without your investment and help. Appreciate you all have a wonderful, successful rest of your week. Thank you so much for being here. And have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks
Thank
for having us.
you.
That was incredible. That was incredible. We were getting so many comments in the chat about you all. Everybody was saying like, this is the best event I've ever attended. They're so inspiring. Thank you for being so vulnerable. Thank you for sharing with us. I mean, we do not typically get comments like that during a Zoom. I just thought it was just awesome. You guys are so awesome. Thank you so much. I mean, it was fantastic.
I agree. Everyone received it so well, and I'm inspired now. I'm ready to go and start my own.
I know. I know. You guys do really have such incredible stories. That was so cool.
I really enjoyed getting to hear Nancy and Katy's side of things as well. I think it's very empowering to, listen to other people's story about their businesses. So thank you, and congratulations to both of you, and good luck with everything.
I think
everybody likes to hear about other people's struggles too, because they're relatable. Like we can have these like wonderfully curated social medias, but it doesn't really reflect like the journey it took to get there,
Yeah, it's just awesome. You all are. You're so inspiring. We really are so lucky to have you all. And that was so cool. I couldn't believe a lot of comments.
Well, I think too, a lot of people see that, they're successful companies in Knoxville, but they have no idea what happens behind the scenes and what you're actually dealing with. So I think to get raw with people, I think it's very helpful. And like Mahasti said, it's very empowering to other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and just people that are struggling, that go, oh my gosh, they struggled too. It's not an easy road to be a success like you all are. So cool.
Well,
thank you so much.
Y'all again. Y'all have a wonderful day.
Thank you.